I took myself to the pub the other night, and I dressed up in my chest binder, and I put on a suit, and somebody in the pub asked me whether I was a guy or a girl, and I take it as a compliment because it means they don't read me as a female straight away, which is a massive compliment. And so I can change my energy, and I can change how people see me by putting on a suit in that sense, and it's power really.
Hello and welcome to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. We get curious about all things gender, sex and sexuality, as well as relationships, feminism, the inclusive kind, mental health and kink, and all that makes us humans unique and diverse. From body positivity to body dysmorphia, it's all welcome here. If you like what we do and want to make a contribution, you can become a patron on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender or buy us a coffee. Links are on the website. Now join us on a journey of inclusion, acceptance and respect. I'm your host, Esther Lemons. I am a cis queer woman and my pronouns are she and her. In this episode, I have a conversation with Jen Hartmann, a fashion designer and founder of the trans-positive label Baal Fashion. Jen is pretty much okay with all the traditional pronouns, but prefers he and him. He is non-binary and also identifies as bigender. Find out what that means to Jen in this episode. We also talk about growing up with very gendered language, being expected to fit into cultural and gendered stereotypes, disrupting the fashion industry and the future of innovation, how clothes are an integral part of gender expression, navigating entrepreneurship and the challenges that come with doing your own thing, surrendering to divine timing, and that one size does not fit all. It was recorded on the 21st of September 2021. Now let's get into the episode. So hello and welcome. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Jen, or Jens, or Verde, and my full long name is Jennifer.
Aha. Well, welcome, Jennifer. And so tell me about your gender experience.
Well, my gender experience I think on some level it's very much informed by being German and being from the Bavarian countryside, which is, as you can imagine, or as anybody can imagine, a very, very binary kind of surrounding. And stereotyping is totally fine in Bavaria. Females do female things, males do male things.
Right.
And I was never, even though I was born into a female body, I was never female in that sense. But there was no language around it really when I was born and later on and stuff. And then suddenly at some point the word non-binary occurred on the language landscape. So I mean, I'm sure it's been around for longer, but in any case it's I heard about it, and then I realized that it might be the word that describes me best actually, because in my own gender experience it's like I have had times when I thought I was trans, and I would definitely much prefer to be in a male body, and it would be right to be male in society. And I have suffered from dysphoria, but not every day in that sense. I'm like, for me personally, it was like I felt like I was a trans person without dysphoria, which makes me not a trans person, but a non-binary person in that sense.
And you said about your pronouns, which kind of links into this, I suppose. So you said you prefer he, him.
Yeah, I prefer
pronouns.
he, him, but I'm totally fine when people give me female pronouns too. The difference to me is if someone refers to me as a she, it doesn't do anything to me or for me. It's like, whatever, I have no feelings about it. Whilst if somebody refers to me by he, him, it makes me happy and it makes my day. So
That's good to know. I mean, how do you feel about neutral pronouns like they, them?
I don't know, rather, recently people have started using these pronouns for me, but I don't really feel they describe me, because I don't know, they, them to me, language-wise, and obviously this isn't my first language, feels more like genderless in that sense. It's like neither he nor she, and I don't feel like I'm neither he nor she. I feel like I'm both he and she.
Well, that leads me to the next label that you gave me, which is bigender.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good summary of what that means. So, I mean, what else does that mean to you?
I think that's pretty much what it means.
Yeah.
As in, as in like not neither nor, but the one and the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any people who use that term for themselves, but I think it's like a term that is used under the umbrella of non-binary in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, the non-binary umbrella, or like the gender umbrella, as I've seen it, is quite interesting because obviously people can be trans and non-binary,
Yeah, absolutely.
or just non-binary and not necessarily trans. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, not necessarily under that umbrella. So, have you always had a sense of your gender, as far as you can remember?
Yes, I think so. I did this online retreat through Recreate Space, which are very great, by the way, over the
Mm-hmm.
weekend, and it made me think of when I was much younger. And German is a very gendered language.
Mm-hmm.
Every word has a gender.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of impossible to, like in English, load most things, there is no gender in that sense. But I remember from very early on that I always referred to myself in the male gender, and I always saw myself as a male person in that sense. And I remember that I
Mm-hmm.
found it very very odd, and it made me really sad when my body developed into something different, which then made me understand that with the body developing like this, I had different expectations set upon me, and well, I was just supposed to be different in that sense. It wasn't fun and okay and normal anymore to
Mm-hmm.
walk around like a boy and refer to myself as a boy and stuff, and do all the things that boys do, because suddenly my breasts were growing, and that obviously meant that I was interested in makeup and boys, and doing the traditional femme things in that sense. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, I do remember that for Carnival, which is celebrated in Bavaria, but not as much. But it is that my mum once
Mm-hmm.
wanted to put me into a princess dress, and I cried and screamed, and I said, "Oh God, I don't want to be a princess and stuff." I always wanted to be male characters, and my mum was fine about it. She never pushed me into needing to be more female or something. She then just
Mm.
didn't put me in the princess dress. So, and
Yeah. Wow.
in kindergarten, when you play mother, father, child, German children
Mm-hmm.
do that. I don't know if English children do that too, but I was always the father. It was always totally out of question that I would be the father in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't.
That is
But I
interesting.
didn't judge
Yeah.
it, and no one judged it. All the kids in the kindergarten, they were happy because everybody else wanted to be the mother or the child.
Yeah.
So it was good
Yeah.
that somebody wanted to be the father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So it sounds like adolescence was quite challenging then.
Yeah, definitely. That made it
Mm-hmm.
a bit harder. That was when I first realized that I wasn't a proper girl in that sense, and that not being a proper girl was considered a bad thing. And
Yeah.
people telling me, if you don't put on makeup, you're never going to find a partner. And obviously, having a female body, finding a male partner is the one important thing in life.
Mm-hmm.
So being
Yeah.
told that all the time was definitely not easy. But I did move
Yeah.
away from Bavaria when I was 20, so and my life became like a lot better at first.
Mm. Is that when you moved to the UK? Or
And no, I moved to Berlin when I was 20, and then I moved to the UK 8 years later.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in Berlin
Yeah.
for 8 years. Yeah,
Well, that must have been quite like liberating being in a big city.
yeah, definitely. It was very liberating, and
Mm.
suddenly people didn't think I wasn't a proper girl anymore. People thought I was interesting, and
Ah.
they wanted to be around me, and they wanted to listen to what I had to say. And also, when I was in Berlin, yeah, that's also where I founded my fashion label.
Ah. Wow. So how did that all develop then? Do you feel like that was all linked into your own self discovery and self expression? I guess so. How could it not? I suppose. So how did that all develop for you
Yeah,
over there?
it definitely had to do with that because I mean, I don't like. I always hated the fashion industry. Well, I had no opinion about it, or I didn't like it. But I did love
Mm.
fashion, and I loved clothes, and I've always made clothes. So I
Mm-hmm.
studied fashion design, and when it came to like the last year, when you do your bachelor's degree, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to do some niche work, but I didn't know what to do. So I went, that was in 2012, I think. And that's when I went to my first ever gay pride in Berlin, the Christopher Street Day parade. So I went there and I didn't know anybody, and I was in one of those, what do you call them? These things, the float. That's the
Oh,
word.
yeah.
Float. That's it.
A float. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was on a float, and I didn't know anybody, and there was one person, and this person was about 2 meters tall, and obviously physically was a man, but was wearing female clothes, and she didn't know anybody either. It seemed so. We started chatting. We became friends, and it was very nice chatting and stuff. And I said I studied fashion design, and at some point during the day, this person then said to me, why don't you consider making clothes for somebody like me? And then she showed me that, her sleeves weren't the right length, and on the upper body it was too big, and the shoulders, it was kind of fitting, but it was rather ill-fitting in that sense. And well, that's where the idea came from, really. It was just a tiny little comment in that sense. And
Wow.
I never forgot that comment. I'm still in touch with that person, and I can still trace down where everything came from to that single person on that day, to that one comment.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and after that, the subject that we had at fashion school, that should be like the umbrella subject, was innovation, and one of the other subjects under that was gender, and luckily enough nobody else wanted to do gender, and as back then people were referring to me as Jenna. I was then from then on I was gender Jenna.
Right.
So yeah, that's when I started. That's when I came up with the idea, and that's how for my bachelor's degree, I then designed a fashion collection that was based on, I interviewed about 20 people, about 20 trans female people from Berlin. And I asked them about their personal experiences of femininity, really, and what it feels like, and what it looks like, and what you need to express it, where it comes from, and all these kinds of things. And from these interviews, I then found like a textile expression of what they had said in that sense.
Right. So what did you discover?
Well, what I discovered was like it was a very personal thing, because before I chatted with these trans women, I rejected everything that was femme about me. I thought femininity is weakness, femininity is everything that's shit, pretty much.
Right.
And speaking with these people, to them, obviously, femininity is not everything that's shit. And the things they said to me, how much they think that femaleness is strength and power and happiness and beauty and all these great things, made me kind of reconsider my own understanding of femininity in general. And on some level, it's thanks to the interviews that I did back then, and thanks to the people that I spoke with, that I feel so much more comfortable in my female body nowadays, and in my, halfway there female identity.
Wow, isn't that amazing? God, that's beautiful. I love that.
And what I also did, and that's still going, is I developed, or I'm still working on it, I'm developing a sizing system that is entirely new to the industry, which uses, if you go to the shop, you want to buy female-looking clothes. They are based around cis female bodies, and the other way around for males. So what I'm working on is taking measurements from trans female people and creating clothes that look female, or that look feminine, in like the more traditional understanding of femininity in that sense. And yeah, I've worked on that for ever since 2013 now, and unfortunately, life got in between, and I didn't believe in my project, and I thought, it wasn't going to succeed, and then something else happened, and something else happened. But in essence, I'm still working on it, and there was a crowdfunding campaign out not too long ago. It's not there anymore, unfortunately, but I hope I will approach it differently next time. And what I need is for people to know about this project, and for trans women to actually take their measurements and actually send it to me, so we can collect as many measurements as possible and create this new sizing system. because I think the time is perfect for it.
Absolutely.
And the
It sounds
dream,
very needed.
exactly,
Yeah.
and the dream is that the sizing system would be created, and that then, let's say, I would approach fashion labels that I think are not ethically totally bastardized, and I could walk up to them and say, we've got this new sizing system, and obviously there's a lot of interest in it, and everybody wants to be diverse now, and every fashion label wants to be on the side of the LGBT community because that's so cool at the moment. So on some level, I could go and offer it to them and make it possible that trans women could go to the shop and just, not shop weird sizes online and have different sizes on top and bottom, but they would just have one size that would fit them, just like any cis person on some level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is so needed. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Not like any cis person. Obviously, there is people who don't find the right sizes either. But in general,
yeah. See, that's the thing. I mean, to be honest, I'm not all that into fashion as such. And I've got I hardly ever buy clothes and stuff. I like quirky and unusual stuff, but I've definitely noticed that some brands are a bit bigger up top than the bottom. They've got different proportions, some brands really fit me well and some really don't, and I'm sure everyone else has that problem as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's so good to allow for more diversity in that area.
Yeah.
And also how things like colors and materials are used, and stuff for quote unquote men is all navy blue and
absolutely
all that, gray and stuff, and then women's stuff is more colorful. It's no, why not make everything colorful?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
whatever.
why I didn't venture into the female to male version of that idea. Sometimes people ask me, why didn't you do that? Because they need to, but it's just boring. I mean, male fashion is unfortunately rather boring. It shouldn't be, but it is. So, I mean, there's more creative expression in clothes for females.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Yeah,
and there's more possibility too, because unfortunately, men don't wear dresses and skirts.
Yeah, I mean, if they did, it would probably change. It would change that industry a lot, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would change everything. I mean, if we considered a dress simply a piece of clothing that is open in the leg area, the whole of the whole society would be different. And I think on some level there wouldn't be something as trans identity in that sense, because it wouldn't be a man in a dress. It would just be a person wearing a dress because they love wearing a dress. And a dress isn't, for females. A dress is simply a piece of clothing that is open between the legs. That's it.
Yeah, totally.
And trousers are closed in the middle. It's not that trousers are for men. They're just closed in the middle.
Yeah, in the end, it's a piece of fabric that's just stitched together in a particular way. And then we've assigned these, conditions to them that these people can wear them and those should not, because that's weird. And all that stuff, yeah.
But I don't think
I don't
think it's going to change very soon. And obviously, I would like it to change, but at the same time, I'm happy that it's not going to change too soon, because that gives me more work. It's I mean, if suddenly the whole society wouldn't be binary anymore and stuff, it would be beautiful. I mean, I'm not saying I would love that, but like this, I can make more clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else have you learned from your experiences in fashion? Anything interesting to do with gender and stuff like that?
I don't know. I mean, what I have learned is pretty straightforward. I don't know, maybe to everyone. Clothes are an integral part of gender expression. It's like the one thing, the one thing that you can go to make things more obvious. I took myself to the pub the other night, and I dressed up in my chest binder, and I put on a suit, and somebody in the pub asked me whether I was a guy or a girl, and I take it as a compliment, because it means they don't read me as a female straight away, which is a massive compliment. And so I can change my energy, and I can change how people see me by putting on a suit in that sense, and it's power, really.
Yeah, that's so interesting what you say about you can change your energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And feel empowered.
My energy is very different when I don't know. My energy is very different when I wear male clothes, and when I feel that I might be read more male, and I feel more empowered. But oddly enough, I also feel more empowered in that sense when I'm presenting very, very femme. And not that I ever wear makeup, because I can't do that. It's impossible for me to do that pretty much. And I can't wear high-heeled female shoes either. But when I wear like a really sexy body-hugging dress that is just, totally over the top female in that sense, it empowers me too on some level, because it's extreme maybe.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a beautiful situation once in. I also I'm a fashion designer, but also work in market research on the phone. And when I go there, I sometimes mostly I wear shirts and trousers, and I present rather male. So one time when I was there, I was in the bathroom. I was in the female bathroom, and some female walked in, and she saw me, and she stopped, and she looked at me in like almost panicky, and then she walked out again to look at the gender marker on the door, because
Mm-hmm.
she thought that she had walked into the wrong toilet.
Yeah.
That was lovely. I was so happy about that. She saw it was the female, and then she was like, "Oh, okay then," and then she went to the toilet. But it was, it was just a split second really, but it totally made my day. And I can still remember it. It was lovely how confused she looked, and she thought she'd walked into the men's.
Yeah. So it sounds like just a very affirming thing to
Yeah,
just not be read as a woman or as female.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I definitely feel more comfortable when I get read as male. Me,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Well, it's more. It's
Yeah.
yeah. It's more me in that sense. But
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know. But I'm. I don't normally get read as a man.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. One thing I've heard friends say, and people, gender diverse folks say, that they might feel like expressing themselves in a particular way when it comes to how they look, but then it can also be dysphoric because they're then not read the way they feel they are.
Exactly.
So,
So I think that's one of the
yeah.
main reasons why I'm actually not really trying. I'm not trying hard to pass in that sense, because I feel that it would hurt me if I tried and then I wouldn't succeed in it, and that's why
Mm.
I don't. Yeah, I don't do too much to pass. So every time I
Hmm.
have passed in the past, it wasn't because I was trying hard, but because it seems I was just convincing because of the way I looked.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So, what's next for your fashion project
Well,
besides, the measuring system as you talked about just
well,
now?
I would love to work more on the measuring system. I was trying to
Mm.
get some funding for an event in London where
Hmm.
I would invite people, and I would then take their measurements, and we could like put it online and do like a live stream of the event or something. And I have to go back into that. I don't really know how to approach it though. I did this crowdfunding
Mm.
campaign, and I put a video on it, and I described in long-winded words where I came from, why I want to do this, why I think it makes sense.
Mm.
And I believe that describing myself in very long words would would be the right thing, because I always feel like people might question why I want that, because I'm not trans myself.
Mm.
But not many people looked at it actually. I mean, my friends did, but it didn't stir as much interest as I wish it had. Even though
Mm.
even though anybody I've ever talked to about this, they all think it's a fantastic idea, and it needs to be done in that sense. So
Yeah.
I need to approach this in different ways, and I think, I mean, yes, by birth I'm a millennial, so I should be really good at like computer things and internet things and stuff. But it seems,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm one of those old bad millennials who don't really understand social media in the way that the youngsters do. So what I need is a Gen Zer to help me out with stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's all about making the right connections, I guess, with stuff like this, isn't it? And
Hmm.
getting people, to help you spread the word and all sorts of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought I could do it,
yeah. Mm.
but I'm not. I think I'm not speaking the language. of the queer folk of today. Maybe I'm too old.
I'm never too old. But
so yeah, that's what's coming next. And I'm still next to the clothes I make for trans women. I also do a lot of upcycling, and when friends of mine, or when other people have a piece of clothing they still kind of like, but it looks crap on them, or they don't like the way it looks anymore, I then make it look good and more interesting again for them. But I'm also in November, a musical professor in Birmingham is doing a drag performance, and I'm doing the 2 costumes for this performance. And the BBC said they might be interested. Let's hope they're still interested in November.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, and I'm going to be making a Bavarian dress inspired costume for this person. It's going to be great.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't done costume design in a while, but I used to do it back in Berlin. I did the costumes for the first ever Shakespeare in the Park in Berlin. So doing that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, and the idea is also to move away from this country. So I hope that at the end of the year we'll be ready to move to Italy. Yeah.
Wow. International. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been here for 5.5 years now, and my partner, she's English, and we're thinking of leaving the island and moving to the mainland. Actually, it's not true. We're moving to another island. We're thinking of moving to Sicily, which is obviously also an island. So from one island to the next.
That's fair. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and there's also in lockdown, I came up with the idea of the Jender podcast, spelled with J. And I might be recording something else on this, hopefully at some point. But in any case, I'm still blogging occasionally on a webpage that's called outbutin.org. And that was founded by my partner and me during lockdown. It's primarily an event calendar. So, and it's very, very straightforward. So let's say in the evening you're sitting around in London and you don't know what you want to do, or you want to know what's on tonight or what's on now in that sense. And what's with all the other event pages, we found that it's not that straightforward to actually find out what's going on today, what's going on now in that sense. And that's why we created outbutin, which solves exactly that problem. You go on the webpage and it gives you the calendar straight away, and it gives you straight away what all the events are that are on today.
Nice.
And if, let's say, there's like a drag king performance and you want to know more about this drag king, then chances are that I have actually interviewed that drag king, and you can read the interview and you can get some more background information too, because we've got artist interviews on outbutin too.
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like to add that we haven't talked about yet?
I think I've mentioned everything that I needed to mention for my own self-promotion. Not sure.
Yeah. Now, I really love what you're talking about with the measuring. I think it's just a matter of finding the right people to help you out, and it's also a matter of timing, isn't it? Because, like you said at the time, maybe it just wasn't the right time for it or something.
I don't know.
It is so
it has
tricky.
to be more catchy. What I did, I used like an old video, and I'm not so confident in front of the camera, so I just need. Yeah, I think it needs to be quicker, shorter, catchier, more shareable in that sense. And then also, on some level, I need a video of actually people taking their actual measurements, because I think even though people might want to take part, it's like it might feel like it's a lot of work to actually get a measuring tape, like a measuring tape, and actually really do that and have somebody else taking measurements and stuff. That's why the crowdfunding campaign was actually about creating a measuring kit, where I would send through the post, I would send measuring tapes to people, and they would then, they could then share on Instagram that they used it and how they measured themselves and stuff. So that's kind of the idea. But I mean, it needs more work anyway. But Well, I think on some level it's good that now the first time didn't work out. I think it's going to be a slight bit easier to do it again, because the first time I put so much fear and expectation and vulnerability into it that I feared, oh my God, if this doesn't work, that's going to question my whole existence, and I have to rethink my whole life. And all the years that I've put into this are going to be wasted if this doesn't work. And I am a total failure if this doesn't work. And now that it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and I'm still alive, and I still want to do this, and I still haven't lost the belief in it, and I still don't believe that in the grand scheme it's going to fail. I still believe that I made mistakes in creating it. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to share it. The videos weren't as catchy. There's just too many words and stuff. So on some level, I didn't try as hard as I could have. But that gives me a good feeling, because at least I don't have to be afraid anymore that I'll die if this thing doesn't go through the roof right now, because I'm still alive, and my life isn't bad at all. So
well, it sounds like you can now bring the right energy to it.
Yeah, I mean,
it sounds like really liberating now, because beforehand it might have been
exactly,
like bogged down by your own connections, like linking it to your self-worth and stuff, which is a very common thing, by the way, if you do your own thing, like entrepreneurs, especially women, actually. That is such a thing. That is such a thing. When I say women, I mean that's kind of the environment that I'm in, like a lot of women entrepreneurs that I hang out with online. But obviously, if you're looking at a space from anything but like cis men, I suppose, which have got like this whole hustle culture and all that kind of stuff, anything other than that is just really challenging. And especially for, if you're gender diverse or neurodivergent, disabled, anything like, minority groups, then you're looking at all this internalized conditioning, and that is just really challenging, though. And I recognize it for myself as well. Like you just link your self-worth to your work and what you're doing, and like if it doesn't work, or if it doesn't work out the way you want, then it almost feels like a sense of personal failure.
Absolutely,
And that is really difficult.
Totally. So I know now that I'm not more of a failure because it didn't work out. I mean, luckily enough, when it didn't work out, I was on holiday and I was having a fantastic time. So lucky enough, I didn't have time to dive into the whole self-destruction thing that I normally would have done if I'd read the emails when I was in England, when I was sitting on my bed. I probably would have been much more distraught through it. Now, I didn't really have time to go into that. I was too happy at that time. So now I'm still feeling I just have to approach it in a different way.
Totally. Yeah.
I still think it's a great thing, and I still think we need that in that sense.
It is so needed, though, because it's things like that might seem like a small thing, but it isn't. It is small things like that build and disrupt industries to make improvements and make it better and more accessible and more diverse.
Absolutely.
That is what is needed.
Now is also the right time, not only because there is so much discussion about gender, but also because of Corona. The whole production thing in fashion. Loads of labels are now thinking about doing it not like having 4 collections a year and stuff because of what happened. So on some level, it's the right time. I just
totally.
I don't know. I just need someone to help with my social media. I need a Gen Zer. Oh.
Yeah. See, that's really good, though. Like just recognize what you're not comfortable with or not good at, and
it took me a bit of time to realize that, because I did believe that I could do it, but then I'm not good at like creating likes and followers on Instagram or something either. I don't know how to do that. And I did do some research, and I did actually do a Google Garage like certificate on digital marketing, and yet still I don't know.
Oh wow. Yeah, and the thing is, if your heart's not in it, because the thing is, like, if you're doing your own thing, it's a lot of work, and you have to wear so many hats. Because if you go to a job, you get like you have usually one main role, I guess, generally, and that's what you do. And there are other people who fill in the gaps around that. That's different roles, different, but done by different people. But if you do your own thing, then you've got to wear all the hats, and you've got to take one off, wear the other one. Some will be comfortable, some will be not at all, and some will be downright like, just such a slog. And it's so important to, recognize not necessarily your weak spots, but like, okay, this is what really lights me up, and this is what just fucking drains me, and I just need to not do that if at all possible. Get other people who it actually lights up to help you with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, in some areas of the whole fashion thing, I did enjoy doing everything myself. I mean, I do enjoy making the clothes and then going online and trying to talk to events, whether I can do a fashion show with them, and talking to magazines and things. And I did like all of that, and organizing a fashion shooting and organizing a photographer and doing the catering myself. I enjoyed that too, because I'm also a cook. So when that's on that level, that lighted me up. That was all good. So but when it comes to the internet and computers, I'm just
social media.
Not so good.
Someone help me with social media.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still use a typewriter, so it's not like that.
Wow, that is so cool.
I don't know. It's also
I learned to type on a typewriter.
Hipstery,
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully the right people and connections will come along to take it forward.
Surely. I mean, it shouldn't be so hard. The queer community is very well connected, and I'm quite well connected though too. So maybe I should just actually take a step forward and say I've got this great project, but what I'm missing is expertise in social media. Get somebody help.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Let's put the intention out there. You mentioned your partner. What are your attractions like? Are you mostly attracted to femme people, women, etc.?
Well, I do identify as bisexual in that sense, but I have mostly been with men in my life, and coming from a Bavarian background, it's like it's not that easy to even admit to yourself that you're attracted to the same sex in that sense. So that was a bit of a struggle. But I'm now in an incredibly lucky position because my partner is also bigender. So my partner, fulfills my attraction to the male gender and also my attraction to the female gender.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
yeah, because I remember when you refer to them earlier, I think did you use she pronouns?
Yeah, sometimes I use she, sometimes I use he.
Ah, so you mix it up.
Yeah, I mix it up.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, he's a fabulous person. It's it's a really rare connection, and you don't really meet lots of people like that at all. So, and when I went to that queer rave where we met at first, I didn't think that I would meet a special person that I would then be with, still be with 3 years later either.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Jen. And I hope your project sort of takes off. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, well, if somebody's listening to this podcast and they feel called to get in touch with something and they're a Gen Zer and know how to do this, then get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need to be a Gen Zer, okay? It's not like that. You can be a millennial too.
You can find out more details on the website at 50shadesofgender.com/Jen, where you can also read the transcript. And you can find Jen on his website, baalfashion.com, which is BAAL, and on Instagram and Facebook at baalfashion, and on outbutin.org, which is also on Instagram. Thank you for listening to the 50 Shades of Gender podcast. You can find us online at 50shadesofgender.com, on social media, and on YouTube. Again, if you'd like to support us, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/50 Shades of Gender or buy us a coffee. Links are on the website. We hope you will listen again. Until then, stay curious and open-minded.
Okay, got the
Nice.
fish. All right.
All the fish is ready.
The fish is ready.
I love the fish. That's not something you hear very often unless you're cooking, maybe.
true.
Oh, yeah, something
The
like that.
fish is ready.
What's the story with the fish then?
Well, there was this ad on the internet. These fishes, they've got like an engine in them, and then they move as if they were like struggling for life, and it's a cat toy in essence. So I bought it for my partner's cat, but the cat didn't like it, and to be honest, it's so soft. It's just really, really soft. So I thought, if the cat doesn't like it, I'll have it myself. And then they had another bigger mackerel in the shops one day, and my partner was having a really hard time. So I bought the mackerel and gave it to her so she can cuddle the mackerel when things are hard. So she's got the big mackerel, and
that's nice.
I've got another fish. The mackerel isn't that soft though.